we've got the argument going on here between the tradcons and between the red pillars. So the tradcons have come back out, and Matt Walsh presents his arguments here. So I'm interested to see your take on this.
Which Andrew Tate describes and promotes, where men have children
I got into
by many different women.
kerfluffle with him on Twitter, by the way, about this.
When was this?
This was yesterday. We were arguing back and forth, me and Matt Walsh.
All right.
Where I told him essentially, like, stop being a wuss about this and just directly confront these guys. Like, I'm so sick of hearing the polygyny debate, and it's been at the undercurrent of it, and it's time for a few of us to just directly debate and confront those ideologies so that we can just show people how stupid they are. As a commenter rightly pointed out, we Ender's Game it, right? We just destroy it so badly that people don't bring it back up for a while.
Right. Okay. Well, would you be willing to, you'd obviously be willing to do the debate. Do you think that Matt Walsh would be willing to do this debate?
I don't. And what's funny is, like, I'd be willing even to do it on Matt Walsh's side against Myron and Andrew Tate, and I think we would win. But I don't think that he would do it.
Well, he's not a debater, Matt Walsh. He struggles in debates a lot.
He doesn't need to be. But I'm a good debater. I can carry it with him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. If you were to prep him before it on the various different points, then I think it would be a strong challenge.
I agree. We'd be ready to go. Yep.
Has lots of historical precedent. It does. This is the way that primitive societies have operated for thousands of years. And today, this strategy, if we can call it that, is very popular in certain communities in this country.
It is very popular. I will say that much. And just from me sort of on my travels and everything, I meet obviously a lot of young guys, and these conversations tend to come up a lot. And I have met a lot of young guys recently who have been saying this. I'm not going to get married. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have multiple wives. I'm going to have multiple wives in different countries, these sorts of things. It is becoming very popular because
I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Yep.
Because you're a young guy, right? This shit was popular when I was young too.
Yeah.
And it was popular when Gen X was young too. And the thing is that what happens is this, right, Jake? You go and you sow all those wild oats, and then by the time you hit your 30s, especially your mid-30s, you start to go, wait a second, I don't have any purpose whatsoever in life. And then you end up completely reforming. The idea is that this idea that this is just now resurgently popular, it goes in waves. Just like when I was younger. You think when I was a kid, there wasn't people playing the field, weren't advocating for polygyny, weren't living they called it the rock star lifestyle then, right? We're going to have drugs and lots of sex and this and that. You know what I mean? That's a rock star lifestyle. And again, only available to very few people, right? And all of those rock stars all reformed. It's so funny, isn't it? After they're all done with their 90s rock star lifestyle, they all became Christians, right? They're all singing Christian music and hymns and shit like that. They all reformed their asses real quick when they figured out, wait a second, this is a purposeless life.
It's interesting because it reminds me of a conversation that we had when I was in Santa Barbara last time. And I said, Andrew, I'm getting into that stage of my life. I'm nearly 30 now. What should I be looking for in terms of marriage? I want to be able to settle down at some point. And I was expecting you to give me the laundry list, but instead you said to me, oh, you're not ready. And I was like, well, screw you, dude. Who are you to tell me I'm not ready? But now I kind of understand what you mean by that, in the sense that there's a part of you that has to die. And I think that a lot of young guys will interpret this as some sort of a death of the soul, death of the spirit, end of the masculine lifestyle. But there is sort of a part of you that has to die in a healthy way, I guess.
Well, it's the materialist side. Once you realize that you can have everything you want, you realize that you don't really want anything. And so the thing is, it's so funny about that is think about a material thing that you've wanted more than anything. You just always wanted it. And then the day finally comes where you get it. You lose interest in it really quickly. That's just how it is. Can you think of anything that you really wanted, that you got it, and you're still as interested in it today as you were when you got it?
Well, the worst part is you're interested in it for 5 minutes, if that, when you get it. And you're like, oh, fuck, that's a thing.
Guess what, though? That's not the case with a good wife, is it?
No.
You don't just lose interest, do you? They're just as important the day you get them as the day you lose them. So this is the important distinction between the material pursuit and the idea that we can just take spiritualism completely out of the human experience and pretend it doesn't exist and pretend that purpose is only material, because it's not.
Yeah. Well, what did you mean when you said you're not ready? Was it not ready in the sense that the priorities aren't there, the roots aren't there, that sort of thing? What does a guy need to do to be ready?
They have to kill off the materialist aspect of themselves. They have to realize that the things which are important to them don't actually exist in the world. And once you realize that most material things are just completely unimportant and always have been because you can't obtain them, you realize that you fucked up the whole time. You fucked up the whole time and you fell for a big lie, which was that any material pursuit was going to ultimately be in some way fulfilling. It never is. Look at the lottery curse, Jake. You ever heard of the lotto curse?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is it that people who had nothing can finally get everything that they ever wanted and they're the most miserable that they've ever been? It's because once you have access to all the material things you could ever want after your needs are met, right? So like you need to have water and food and shelter, right? Those are your material needs and some form of recreation. You need to at least have those things. But past that, when you get into the pursuit of thing I want, right? You realize that once you get that thing, you lose interest in it almost as fast as you got it. Almost as fast as you got it.
Kind of a terrifying thing though, because that is like something that's genuinely like a struggle for guys to kill that part of themselves, the materialistic part. And if there's not an incentive and if there's not a clear path in terms of killing that side of you, then I can see why guys would get super tempted into the lifestyle of just of keeping that until their 40s and 50s, and they're wearing a tacky suit at a bar at 50 years old.
Yeah, but doesn't a kid your age, when you see a guy in his 50s living that way, think in your head he's pathetic?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's what all of you guys always tell me, that the 40, 50s, even early 60s playboys driving around the muscle cars with a 25-year-old, basically prostitute on their arm. They look at me and say, oh, that guy's pathetic. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between him and you except the number in your years?
Yeah, it's so true, man. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, it is kind of pathetic. And when you see, and also when you interact with these people, it's like, it's almost, especially for women, I find that it's almost a necessary part of the maturation process of a human being to actually give that, to be selfless in that way, if you know what I mean.
It's a part of who?
It's like a necessary part of the maturation process of a human being to then have that sort of ego death.
Yeah, well, it's just that with age comes the idea that most of the shit that you wanted is because somebody else had it.
Yeah. No,
that 99% of the shit that you want in life is because somebody else has it and you don't. And once you realize that and you stop caring about what other people have and care instead about what it is that you actually value, you realize that you don't value very much. That's why the older you get, the more you see us old guys saying shit like, I don't care, I don't give a shit, I don't care. You know what I mean? Don't care, don't care, don't care. You'll hear this commonly. The older I get, the less I care about things. That's not true. It's just the older you get, the more you care about things that matter and the less you care about everything else, which almost nothing matters. Once you realize that, then you're ready.
And you can always spot those communities because they're the ones that are the most dysfunctional, the filthiest, most destitute, and crime-ridden places in the country. Show me the murder rate and the average yearly income in any neighborhood, and I will tell you whether most of the children in that neighborhood have a father in the home or not. And I will never be wrong. Andrew Tate talks about this kind of lifestyle as though it's natural. In a post on Sunday, he made that claim explicitly. He said, quote, monogamy isn't natural for men. We are not monkeys or lizards or sharks. We are human beings. And my controversial contention is that we should act like it.
Well, and by the way, there's
monogamy
something here which reinforces Matt that he's not bringing up. Is that if it's the case you're coming from this from a red pill perspective, non-religious, then you're adapting evolutionary psychology, which the key point of this is what? Evolution, right, Jake? So how can you ever say that if it's the case that half the world practices monogamy, that men did not evolve to practice monogamy? Yeah. Of course they did. That would be part of the evolutionary process. So to say that that's not natural would actually be stupid. That makes no sense, right? It would absolutely have to be part of the natural world that we evolved towards monogamy, or we wouldn't engage in it.
Yeah, and if the idea is to reproduce and survive as well, I mean, we have to reproduce our society, and what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, exactly. What's the best way for it to thrive?
Yeah.
Well,
even better, single moms,
supernatural. Man and wife become one at the altar. They are bound together by the vow they made before God. This is above our base instincts. And so is composing a symphony or sculpting the statue of David out of a massive hunk of marble. These things are achieved, just like any great thing is achieved, by rejecting temptation, subordinating our base desires, embracing some measure of hardship for the sake of something far greater than whatever momentary pleasure we can experience by giving into them. And there is nothing in this world more manly, more masculine than that. In fact, I would say this is the very definition.
So this is where he gets it
masculinity.
wrong. At least in my opinion, this is where he gets it wrong. So he's talking about the hierarchy of duties in men, right? However, there's no obligation for men to fulfill this higher duty of moving themselves away from base instincts and moving themselves into the maturation of assisting women at their expense, if women are not also moving towards the same virtues and duty. So if it's the case that one whole half of society is not encompassing those same virtues, what obligation do you have to do so? And this is the question that Matt will stumble on over and over and over again, and most people on my side will as well.
Right. So what's the answer then? Because I think that he does make a good point that in terms of what is manly and masculine, being if you're materialist and everything that you do constantly goes inwards, then it sort of almost eats away at you. But if you are taking your masculine virtues and if you're expressing them outwards and towards family and community and these sorts of things, and I think that's a much more masculine thing because it sort of expands endlessly.
Yeah, but in the encompassment of that masculinity, does that mean that you give your resources to people who are undeserving of them?
Sometimes undeserving is probably the key word there. Yeah. People in need maybe, but undeserving is the key word, probably not, no.
Yeah, but who determines that people in need deserve it? You, the person who has the resources, gets to make that determination, right?
Yeah.
In other words, you don't have, Jake, a duty to give to people who are in need, do you?
Well, as a Christian, you have some sort of a duty to tithe, right?
Sure, but isn't that supposed to be used responsibly towards people you think deserve to have that coming towards them, or in some way you're dispensing the charity towards a person because you think that they can do good with it? You wouldn't dispense charity to somebody you thought was going to do bad with it, right? Like you're not going to give a bum $20 to go buy booze, are you?
No.
No.
Yeah.
So you don't.
I think
So
there
you
is
don't.
a duty there. There is a duty there, though.
Yeah, maybe, but
Yeah.
But who gets to determine when it's fulfilled?
You do, yeah.
Yeah, you do, right? So that's the case that the red pill is making here. Who gets to make the determination as to which women are deserving of these characteristics and virtues and are deserving of the resources? It's not the women that get to determine that. It's us who gets to determine that. And I think that is one of the key parts that's been missing from the Christian ethics side.
So, but what is actually the counter argument here? What should Matt Walsh say in regards to this? So he's saying that it's the most
to take over. What do you mean?
Yeah, okay.
The same thing we've always been needing to do. You take the over. You tell Christians it's perfectly acceptable to boycott. It's perfectly acceptable for you to discriminate against people who don't share your values. Nepotism's totally acceptable. The fact that you can flood the polls and get people with your values in office and they're going to be discriminatory towards those who don't have your values is totally fine. That's the answer. Fuck 'em. The answer is to take that shit over. And then you institute your force of will the same way the opposition has been for the good of everybody. This whole black pill, we're just going to give the fuck up, everybody. That. Yeah, you're rolling over for shit. Take that shit over. You take it over.
I feel like running through a wall right now.
Hell yeah.
Can you do the harder thing for the sake of the greater good? If you're going to impart one thing to your sons and your daughters as a father, it should be this: teaching them how to do the harder thing for the greater good. And if you can't, or if you won't, then you aren't manly.
See, I disagree with that
and
too.
No matter how much.
See, I agree that you should teach people, especially men, that they often will have to embody a harder thing in life for greater virtue. That's not with dispute. But with wisdom, you find something out, right? Is that half the time you don't have to engage at all. Half the time you don't even have to insert to watch it fall, right? And that's the easiest path, in fact, in many cases. So what I would say is this: you want to impart the greatest virtue in a boy, right? The greatest virtue to teach them is wisdom. That's the greatest pathway to virtue, is wisdom, is knowing when not to act. It's just as important as knowing when. So there's something maybe your fighting instructor told you at some point, Jake. Knowing when not to fight is just as important as knowing how.
That's the art of war, Sun Tzu. You win the battle without firing a gun, or without
firing a shot.
Yeah.
How much money you have or how much you can bench press. Doesn't matter. Now, Tate says that men will be men, and yes, that's true, but will they be good men? Will they be men of virtue and fidelity and discipline? They can be if they pursue the higher thing. In a similar way, I might say that many men will father children. That's easy to do. But will they be fathers?
But you notice that baked into this, he's not telling you why that's the higher thing to do. Only that it is.
Yeah,
and that's the problem, right? Is like, you can't just make the statement that it is the higher virtue. You have to state why it's the higher virtue. And actually, I can help Matt's argument out a little bit here. The determination of men versus women's virtues. You can just look at it this way. It's really simple. If you key in the absence of a single virtue for an entire sex, and look at the kind of conceptual effects on society, which are detrimental, right? We can then associate which are masculine virtues and which are feminine virtues, and which are higher and which are lower. Here's an example of this. If men tomorrow, all of them, stop doing their job of defending the population, there's no population. It's gone. So idealism like courage as a virtue, things like this, have to be masculine, because if women give up on the duty of defending the nation, who gives a shit? It's not that important, right? Could it have a detrimental effect? Yes. But the way that you would associate that that's a masculine versus feminine virtue is look at the effects when one sex drops that virtue, and then you'll see why it's associated with one over the other. So the reason you should calibrate towards the higher virtues, these would be the things which would have the most compelling effect around everybody in society, if you don't encompass them, would be these keynote masculine virtues. And that's why you should move towards them, because if everybody in society does, you're going to have a way better society. So you can't just make the assertion, but you can show why. We have good reasons for this.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, especially when you're looking at masculine virtues and why we need to follow them and these sorts of things. Because when you look at the red pill argument and when you look at the black pill argument, it is actually quite compelling, because there are a lot of aspects of the modern world which a young man might look around and say, well, things kind of look like they're collapsing around me. It seems as though the game is rigged against me. Why do I need to embody these virtues? Like, what are these virtues that you're talking about here, Matt Walsh, and why is that important for me? Why don't I just grab the bag and run, sort of thing? So there needs to be an actual...
To address, there's a chatter who's spurging out because I spend my wife's paycheck on guns, right? I thought you rejected materialism, Andrew. Rejection of materialism doesn't say that you can't have material things or even value material things, but that you shouldn't only value those things. And in the hierarchy, they're at the lesser end of valuing the things which are spiritual. So for instance, would I give up my wife or my guns first, stupid? Which is the answer to that question, you idiot? Which is the answer? Because if the answer, you dumb is that I would give up the guns before the wife, then I don't value the materialism, right, dummy? And these people like you, are why it is that people like me make the kind of money that so I can buy that many guns, by the way. It's because of people like you. Without stupid like you, I would never be in the position of being able to do what I do. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
They have children.
And
Will
for
they
that, we
raise
salute
them?
you.
That's the hard part. Now, I keep talking about hardship and difficulty, rightly so. But I don't want to make it sound like being a faithful husband and father is nothing but misery and drudgery, and all you can do is just grit your teeth and bear it.
This is another important point coming up here, I think, from Matt Walsh, in the sense that this is often spoken about from the common denominator of well, there's misery everywhere, and how are we going to sort of deal with our misery? It's hard to sort of imagine the real positives of it until you have it, I guess. People say that you don't know what it's like to be a father until you hold your baby. You don't know what it's like to be married until you've been married for 10 years and these sorts of things. I don't think I could really imagine that, or like really visualize the joy of it, if that makes sense.
Well, maybe not in its fullest capacity, but I think you can imagine it in some sense, Jake. So, for instance, you you deeply loved your father,
Yeah.
and you deeply love your mother, right? So,
Yeah.
how is it that it would be like impossible for people to envision how their parents must feel the opposite direction? You know, like you fought, I'm sure, with your father, you fought, I'm sure, with your mother, fought with your siblings, but you wouldn't replace any of that, right?
No.
So how could that be any different with your own child?
I guess it's the responsibility and the fact that you made that person. You have this, responsibility over their life and their well-being. Like I've never had any responsibility over anyone but myself. So
Yeah, I
that's the
mean,
part.
that's not true though. Don't you have an obligation to your brothers?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some responsibility which is baked in there between all of you as well. So it's like, look, when it comes to family dynamics, while you might not be able to envision or experience the full joy of having your own children yet, I think that you can still envision what it must be like as you had parents yourself and siblings yourself, right?
Hmm. All right, let's watch a little bit more of this. And then I do want to cover, I know we're getting a bit over time, but I do want to cover a little bit of the tweets between Myron and Matt, and then Hillary Crowder's tone deaf.
You guys can go as long as you want.
How are you going for time, Andrew?
Yeah, we can go for a little bit longer. We were, yesterday was kind of a cluster, so we kind of cut the show a little bit early, like maybe 5 minutes early. And today it's just kind of it's kind of a makeup day. We're just kind of making
Why did
everything
that sound
up
so gay?
because it's Lumberg from Office Space.
It's a makeup day.
It's kind
Why
of
did that sound so
yeah,
gay?
because Lumberg from Office Space sounded
Yeah,
kind of gay.
I'm not wearing makeup, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, mystery.
That's not the case. I love being
guys are
married. I
mean.
love being a dad. It's a lot of fun much of the time. It's a source of great joy. That's what happens when you simply let go of your childish need to put your own immediate gratification before anything and everything all the time.
Now, this bit I can kind of understand because I did see the actual joy that my dad had when we were growing up and kicking the footy, playing sports. He just loved having 3 boys. It was just the center of his existence was his 3 boys, these sorts of things. Now, that would be fun. And maybe that would be something to sort of add into the messaging as well, I guess, when you're talking to young guys. Like, it's actually fun and cool having kids. It's a fun thing,
Can I ask you a question, Jake?
Yeah.
Why is it that chatters think that me going off of them isn't like 10% of the reason that people tune into my shows? Because they just love watching me rip you to shreds. I don't know why they think. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, agreed.
You discover an ability to do the harder thing and actually enjoy it. The way that guys like Tate describe marriage makes it seem like, we're living in entirely different universes, and perhaps we are. Because he describes marriage like it's a labor camp. A man is imprisoned by his controlling, ungrateful, promiscuous wife who runs out to cheat on him as soon as he leaves for work in the morning. He makes it seem, or outright claims, that it's essentially impossible for a man to find a good, faithful woman who will bear his children.
See, this is all bullshit. This pisses me off because it's a straw man. And it's the totality of a straw man, which annoys me. It's like, look, I believe that Matt is correct, that Andrew Tate is wrong on this, but I'm not going to strawman his position because that's not how you beat that position. You beat it by steelmanning it, and then you win after it's been after you've steelmanned the position. So what Tate says is not that there's an impossibility that you'll ever find a good wife. He doesn't say that at all. He just says it's improbable in modernity, when you have everything going against you, for women to not have incentives to both leave you, screw you over, and cause serious and significant damage to you with very little that you can do to mitigate those effects. And so you should look for alternative routes to marriage, which is a reasoned position. I don't know why these guys keep pretending that that's not a reasoned position, because it is. It's a reasoned position. Can you beat it with better reasoning? Yes, but you can't strawman this shit, or you lose immediately.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is a reasoned position. And a lot of the stats do favor that these days in terms of divorce rates and these types of things as well.
Yeah, he's got good points on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the fun thing here is like, and this is all female influence in the space of women getting upset and you think Tate says, and then right-wing creators get pushed back from their stupid female audiences and think they got to placate them. Right? I have no such inhibitions. You bitches can get the out of my chat tomorrow. I don't give a shit what you think about what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is true. You cannot steelman this guy's position, and you cannot take away from Andrew Tate that a lot of the risks that he's talking about and a lot of the things that he's talking about and the unique challenges which are faced by this generation are not things which are being addressed for them. They're not. They're just objectively not. And because of that, unless you can beat Tate in the realm of ideas that people can gravitate towards, he's going to beat your ass. He's going to beat your ass on every single front, maybe physically, mentally, everything in between. You have to be prepared for that. And I get frustrated when these guys strawman the position because you don't need to. You can beat it legitimately.